Friends, welcome back to the Brave New Wear Show. My name's Christian. Why don't you join me and take a seat? As you can tell, I have taken a seat. We've had an upgrade to the studio. My brand new Wassily Chair. Now, it's not a official Knoll rendition, but it is a chair. And since it's been added to the Fashion Bunker to the studio, I wanted to do an episode talking about the history of this iconic design. So join me, if you will. And as always, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. If you like this content, please leave a like. And stay tuned to the end. I have a special announcement just for you. Now, few pieces of furniture are as iconic and recognizable as the club chair B3, aka the Wassily Chair. And it's been seen everywhere from Fraser's apartment to the Museum of Modern Art. What is the story behind this iconic and instantly recognizable piece of furniture? To understand how this chair came to be, of course, we need to start with the art movement that made it possible, the Bauhaus. After the end of World War I, Germany was in a crappy situation. And you've probably heard of this before. In the early 20s, Germany had massive amounts of debt they needed to pay off from the war, and in order to meet that demand, the Weimar Republic basically printed an exorbitant amount of money and created gigantic inflation. This was a dire time for the German people, and it's not exactly the time that you would expect an art movement would be born in that country. In the 1910s and the 1920s in Europe, there had already been movements that were encouraging modern designs and more liberal ideas. Now enter Walter Gropius. He was a German architect who had this idea of creating an apolitical, universal art form, a school of art that was built around this new modern era. It would be streamlined, it would be form follows function, and it would be designed for a new modern Germany and a modern Europe. So that's exactly what Gropius did. He created a school to train artists and designers to utilize the new modern technologies and philosophies of the time, and the name of the school was the Bauhaus. The Bauhaus did kind of develop in tandem with similar art movements in Russia and in Italy. Think of Futurism, which also had kind of this ideology of making art and design that reflected this new modern era. Something I did learn while I was researching this chair, I had the misconception that the 1920s were basically horrible throughout Germany. But that was wrong. History class taught me a little bit wrong. While the Weimar Republic was devastated by the Treaty of Versailles for the beginning of the 20th century, and basically Germany was unable to participate in the economic boom that was happening in America and the rest of Europe around 1924. The Weimar Republic was able to renegotiate the Treaty of Versailles. They didn't change the amount of money that was owed, but they were able to change the payment process. In addition, thanks to large loans provided primarily from America, German industrialists were able to kind of copy and embody these new modern manufacturing processes. Think like Henry Ford. So, with that combination, Germany actually entered what is referred to as the golden era of the Weimar Republic. And that's important to understand because, at least as I was doing research, I was trying to figure out how does something like the Wassily Chair and this art movement of the Bauhaus flourish or even exist if everybody is extremely strapped for cash and there is no production. Well, guess what? Germany was able to ramp up their production and kind of join the rest of the developing world in the Roaring 20s. So the scene is set Germany is primed for production. They have an art movement that is flourishing, and the Bauhaus is basically creating a new language and mode for German designers and artists. Enter Marcel Breuer. He was a prodigy of Walter Gropius and started learning carpentry in the early 1920s while attending the Bauhaus school. Breuer will be known for both his architecture and his furniture design, and it should be noted how he was deeply inspired by the new industrial types of methods and technology that were being developed in Germany as he was attending the Bauhaus school and creating his new designs. This is all important. I'm setting the scene, I'm telling you the story, I'm painting the picture. What makes the Wassily Chair so cool is not only how kind of iconic and classic it feels, but how modern it looks. It's kind of intriguing to see how Breuer was able to create something that feels very streamlined to this day. I think that's kind of one of the reasons why the Bauhaus has such an impact, a kind of a cultural significance even now. Let's talk about steel beams. Not those. No, let's talk about bent tubes of steel. So essentially, during the early 20th century, it was virtually impossible to weld steel in a specific way where you could bend it in the way that you see on this chair. The German steel manufacturer, this guy, learned these techniques specifically for bicycles. Now, Marcel Breuer, who we already mentioned, was deeply inspired by kind of like this industrial newness, was blown away by how these bicycles were both so light and so sturdy. Nobody was able to shape steel like that until this moment, and thus the capacity to make the B3, aka Wassily Chair, started to come into focus. But another detail is the actual textile that is used to sit on, to adorn, to make the chair a chair. My version is a leather, but that is not authentic to the original Breuer design. The original Breuer design actually used a type of wax cotton called Eisengarn. It's kind of like, think of like a director's chair, that kind of woven, stiff canvas type of material. The textile artist Margarita Reichhardt was currently at the Bauhaus, who was working as contemporary of Breuer, was trying to innovate and reinvent this cotton material. Breuer saw that and asked if he could use that material in his furniture. Thus, the two pieces came together, the textile and the steel construction. But like, what's going on with the design though? The club chair B3 was inspired by club chairs. Breuer was likely inspired by chairs kind of like this one. It's like big, it's leather, it's comfy, but look at it. Look at all the material. You know, look at, this doesn't feel modern. This doesn't feel like a spaceship or a train or a railroad or something like that. It feels very old school. But this was the shape and kind of the concept that he was working with, that he wanted to modernize, to Bauhausize. Basically, what we have here is a club chair that's been stripped down. It's just steel and material. It's only the essential parts that your body touches, essentially, which is kind of an element that makes it cool. It looks like it has all this negative space where a regular, like stuffed lazy boy type of chair would have padding and leather and just mass. Breuer actually described the B3 as his most extreme work, the least artistic, the most logical, the least cozy, and the most mechanical. Mechanical, yeah. Logical, yeah. In a lot of ways, he was looking at the design of a club chair and trying to make it more logical. Least cozy? I don't know. Maybe the original was not so cozy, but this chair is surprisingly pretty comfortable. I think it would be like ideal for watching TV, for lounging, for reading. It feels pretty comfortable to me, and I think a lot of that has to do with the angle of the seat itself. least artistic, well, buddy, it's in the MoMA. I think that that's kind of an interesting element of functionist design and the Bauhaus. You know, it's a part of this concept that form will follow function. But I think it could be argued that a lot of the best functionist designers and the best Bauhaus designers were paying close attention to aesthetics. While the aesthetics were driven a lot by the function of it, there's a million ways that you could kind of try to copy Breuer's original thought and make it look uglier. I think that least artistic, you know, he was just being critical. That's how artists are. They're critical of their own work. But the fact of the matter is, the design, the reason that it's still so stunning to us, kind of proves that it is an artistic innovation in itself as well. I know you're thinking, so, like, why do we call it the Wassily Chair? What's going on with that? We're referencing Wassily Kandinsky, the Russian-German Bauhaus painter. The story goes like this. Kandinsky was in the Bauhaus school at the same time as Breuer, and he loved the new design and asked Breuer to make one so he could have it in his studio. So, like, chairs like this, designs like this, think of like the Eames chair, think of like any kind of famous designed furniture that's mass-produced. It often, the license to create the authentic original design is often passed between one company to the next. And during a period in the mid-20th century, an Italian furniture company had the license to create the B3. And doing research on the history of the chair, they found out that Kandinsky had one, and they thought that calling it the Wassily Chair would sell better. Wassily sells better than B3. So friends, that is the story of the Wassily Chair, kind of a different episode, but I've been really interested in kind of the Bauhaus and functionalist designers, in part because of all the ideas that I have right now about my aesthetic, about it being very functional in certain ways without sacrificing aesthetic beauty. And I've been considering as well doing a video on Dieter Rams, who isn't a Bauhaus artist to say, but he is a German designer who was deeply inspired by this movement. But we come to the end of the video, and this is the announcement that I wanted to make. And I hope you're paying attention. I've been making these videos twice a week. I've been having an awesome time with the Advanced Aesthetic series, and the reality is I want to continue making videos indefinitely, forever. I want to do this as my job because it's the one thing that I feel like I can really make an impact in. It's one thing that I have fun doing more than anything. And as a kind of result, I am now announcing my Patreon. What do you guys think? Listen, I'm going to provide a link to the Patreon down in the description below. And I really encourage you guys to take a look. I'm asking you to help support me as I continue to make these videos twice a week, to help support me so that I can afford to upgrade my computer. It's just too slow. I want to improve everything that we do on this channel, and I want to continue this energy of being inviting, of being fun and entertaining. Think about it this way. Think about it this way. You are a regular watcher of the channel. You're one of 500, 300, 100. And twice a week, and around like 8 o'clock, you go on YouTube, you see my thumbnail, you click it, and you watch it 5 or 8 minutes. Wouldn't it be crazy if you had the chance to influence that little man in that screen? What if you could play God without anybody else in the world knowing, really? Just by giving him a little bit of money, you're transforming what happened to that little man in the screen. What might take place if I can do this full time? How might this channel change? You have the power to influence that. If you're loving the Advanced Aesthetic series, if you love watching those episodes, playing along with me, doing these little projects and kind of exploring your aesthetic together, this is the one way that you can assure that these episodes keep coming out and we keep working together to improve your aesthetic. I know it looks like I'm a rich guy, I got this cool chair. I want to make this YouTube thing work. I want to make it my full-time job. And I will have to do more to create multiple revenue streams. I will have to figure out new ways to keep the content in the same vibe and energy, but even better. And in order to do that, I need to be able to support what I'm doing. And I understand that right now, with the economic situation in the world, this is a very tough time to ask anybody for money. It seems insane. So I'm not asking you for a lot. Think about it this way, dude. You are a producer, like in Hollywood, man. You are now like the new producer of the Brave New Wear show. Isn't that kind of cool, vaguely? And I would love to hear your feedback in terms of what do you guys want from a Patreon? What do you want from this channel? And what do you think I can offer that would be worth your time? By pledging a little bit of money, you're making it possible that these episodes will continue to come out and will get better and bolder and weirder or more experimental and more engaging. Isn't that worth something? You tell me. And as always, guys, I'll catch you later.